Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock. I would like to call this meeting to order. The proceedings of this meeting will be recorded and made available on the internet. We can move on to item 1.2 of our agenda, which is roll call, and I ask our clerk, Jesse Clark, to please call the roll.
Thank you. Mayor Lamstead, are you present?
I am present.
Deputy Mayor Armstrong?
Present.
Councillor Franzen?
Present.
Councillor Braybrook?
Present.
Councillor Cadigan?
Present.
For staff, we have Donna Taggart, CIO Treasurer.
Present.
Evan Grieger, Director of Public Works.
Present.
Eric Gay, Director of Building and Planning, CBO.
Present.
Adele Arbor, Planner.
Present.
Bianca Dragicevic, Deputy Clerk.
Present.
Derek Bertram, Planning Technician.
Present.
And Jesse Clark, Director of Corporate Services, Clerk, is present.
Okay, thank you for calling the roll. We can move on to item 1.3 of the agenda, which is land acknowledgement and moment of reflection. We respectfully acknowledge that Trent Lakes in Peterborough County are located in the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaty First Nation, which include Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Beausoleil, and Georgina Island First Nations. Trent Lakes respectfully acknowledges that the Williams Treaty First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. We will now take a moment to reflect on these principles and our duties and responsibilities as members of council. Thank you, everyone, for your moment of reflection. We can move on to item 2 of the agenda, which is approval of the agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as circulated. I see Councillor Franzen for a mover and Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any conversation about the agenda as circulated? I'm seeing none. I will call for a vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Been a while since I've did a half virtual, half physical meeting, so please bear with me if I stumble a wee bit. Okay, we can move on to item 3 of the agenda, which is disclosure of pecuniary interest. If any member of council has a pecuniary interest on an item on the agenda, please disclose it now or anytime during the meeting prior to discussing anything on the item you have a pecuniary interest in. I see no hands. We can move on to item 4 of the agenda, which is adoption of minutes. We have item 4.1, item 4.2, and item 4.3. If anyone would like to speak about any one of those items, please bring it to our attention, and we can. If you would like to make a motion, we can do all 3 at one time. See Councillor Franzen.
Motion to do all 3.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Okay. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. That wasn't a question, was it, Deputy Mayor Armstrong? I've seen that. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we can move on to item 5 of our agenda, which is committees and boards. Item 5.1 is liaison reports for county council boards and committees. Does anyone have any reports? I'm seeing no hands. We can move on to item 6 of our agenda, which is our statutory public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act. So I would entertain a motion to suspend our regular meeting and go into a public meeting. I see Councillor Cadigan for a mover. I'm waiting very patiently for Councillor Braybrook to put his hand up. I see Councillor Braybrook for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We are now in a statutory public meeting, and I think Derek Bertram, our planning technician, you have a preamble.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamstead, members of council. This is a public meeting under Section 34 of the Planning Act to consider an amendment to the municipality's comprehensive zoning bylaw B 2014-070. A notice of public meeting for today's application containing the prescribed information was circulated to all landowners within a 120-meter radius of the subject lands at least 20 days prior to this meeting, and a sign was posted on the subject land in accordance with the Planning Act. The notice was also mailed to all prescribed agencies, public bodies, and persons in accordance with the regulations. Anyone wanting to be notified of any decision from today's public meeting must either inform myself or the clerk, and a notice of passing will be mailed out to them, setting out the method and manner in which appeals may be made to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person does not send in a written comment prior to the passing of the bylaw or make an oral submission at the public meeting, that person may not be entitled to appeal the decision.
Okay, thank you very much, Derek Bertram. Please introduce the file.
Thank you. So we have a zoning bylaw amendment 2603 on today's agenda, which was submitted by Agent Graham Richards of MHBC Planning, Urban and Design and Landscape Architecture on behalf of owners Nancy and Rodney Kingdon for a vacant property located off the fire access route from Crystal Lake Road. This property is currently zoned rural in the municipality's comprehensive zoning bylaw, B 2014-070, and does not exhibit any structural improvements on the land. The property, being approximately 1.5 kilometers south of Crystal Lake Road, is accessed via an unnumbered fire access route east of Peters Island Road. The fire access route also has an alternative access from County Road 507. The purpose of the application is to rezone the subject lands from rural to shoreline residential private access with an exception to support construction of a single detached dwelling, class 4 sewage system, and a detached accessory garage. The current zoning, rural, does not support residential development as it does not meet frontage requirements of section 412 of the municipality's comprehensive zoning bylaw, as the lands do not abut an improved public road. The submission included environmental impact study by Astor Environmental Services, a stage 1, stage 2 archaeological assessment by Irvine Heritage Incorporated. The environmental impact study was supportive of development and included several mitigation measures to be implemented through a site plan agreement, and the archaeological assessment is awaiting registration from the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism. However, the conclusion of the stage 1, stage 2 analysis identified that there were no archaeological resources identified on site, but the general area still had archaeological potential. There is a planning report on today's agenda from the municipality's external planner, Chris Jones, which is supportive of the rezoning based on the outcomes of these requested items at the time of complete application note letter. The planner visited the property in May of 2025 to review the property and the proposal, and the planner has requested that the owner enter into an encroachment agreement, as the owners will be accessing their property via an unassumed road which travels over an unopened road allowance. And further to that, a site plan agreement shall also be entered into, which shall contain the recommendations of the environmental impact study. Comments from the municipality's deputy chief building official have been received, stating that a site visit has not yet been performed, but based on the size of the site, the viability of a class 4 system, class 4 septic system does seem practical on the site. And that now concludes the summary of the zoning bylaw amendment 2603, and I turn the floor back over to you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Derek Bertram. Now, is there anyone in the gallery for or against this application? Please state your name for the record if you are. Anyone online for or against this application?
I'm seeing no hands.
You're seeing no hands. Okay. Does any member of council have any comments or questions regarding this item? Okay, I'm seeing no comments or questions. Wow, that's interesting. I mean, we've been circulated all the possible information we need. Thank you very much for that, Derek and Adele. Okay, we can move on now to, I would entertain item 7 of our agenda, which is business arising from the statutory public meeting. So entertain a motion to reconvene our regular meeting and move on to our public meeting. See Councillor Franzen for a mover and Councillor Braybrook for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We are now back into our regular meeting. So we can move on to item 7.1 of our agenda. And Derek Bertram, our planning technician, can you please speak to this item?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor and council members, there was a public meeting held for file 2603, and municipal staff are recommending the following: that council receive the report from the planner for zoning bylaw amendment file 2603, and further that council support the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment file 2603 pending confirmation from the planning department that the owner has entered into a site plan agreement and encroachment agreement.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any comments or questions for Derek? Anyone online? I guess we're not online. We're off that. Sorry. I'm seeing no questions or comments. Would anyone be willing to make a motion? I see Councillor Cadigan for a mover. What would your motion be?
Receive the report from the planner and the council defer approving zoning bylaw amendments until confirmation of applicant has executed the encroachment agreement and site plan agreement.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? I see Councillor Franzen for a seconder. Any further conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for a vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay. We can move on now to item 8 of our agenda, which is presentations, and item 8.1. Richard Skinga, can you please come to the podium? And you're a partner with Baker and Tilley, so our annual report. Thank you, Richard. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Do I need to turn this on, or is it?
I think it's on. I think it's on.
All right, okay, good. All right. Yes, good.
Okay, you go right ahead, Rich.
All right, okay.
Pretty much finished off there.
All right. Yes, so it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon to present the audit results and some of your financial highlights for the year ended December 31st, 2025. I'd like to point out too, this is our first presentation of a 2025 year end. So it's always good to see that the municipality remains a leader in that respect. We audit about 40 other municipalities within the office. So that's it's good to see that you're remaining first there. So so first off, for 2025, as opposed to the last few years under PSAB, there weren't any reporting changes or formats this year, so it remains consistent with what you'd seen in the past. And then within the detailed financial draft financial statements, first document is the management report, and then the second document is the independent auditor's report. And then if we move ahead to slide 2, in the actual presentation, this is a summary of the independent auditor's report that, in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the municipality of Trent Lakes at December 31st, 2025, and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So your standard clean, unqualified auditor's report. Also keep in mind when it says consolidated, when we look at the numbers, the amounts we see also include the library board as well as the municipal operations as well. And then of course the big thing here is the in accordance with public sector accounting standards, or PSAB. So those are the required format that you have to present things, which are some different than how you actually produce your internal reports and how you set your tax rate budgets. So we'll try to highlight a few of those things as we go through. But then taking a look on the next slide, it's on page 3, the listing there of our audit procedures that we do to gather the evidence to produce our auditor's report. So a lot of that does involve looking at gathering documentation and how things are processed through your financial records, as well too as looking at council minutes as well. Then too on this slide, you'll see that the overall the audit is complete pending receipt of the signed representation letter, legal letter, and council approval of the financial statements. Overall, though, too, there were no difficulties encountered during the audit, which also assists in the timing here today. There were no disagreements or difficulties with managements or changes to our initial audit plan, and excellent cooperation from municipal staff and management. And as well, too, there were no unadjusted differences, so everything was adjusted. So that's always good to see. So that's actually just a summary of the audit. And now we will take a look at the new presentation format we've designed this year for the municipal presentations. And you will see there that it does include the 5-year forecast of information. Overall, when you take a look at the statement of financial position, financial assets are assets that the municipality owns that are either cash or can be turned into cash. And you will see there that the trend is on the far right-hand side, and the 2025 results are in the green box. And overall, cash remained fairly consistent. Your receivables were down in the prior year. You'll notice it'll come up a few times within the presentation that the work on the 49 depot did have a large impact on your 2024 results, and your next project isn't quite to that stage. So therefore, overall, within your accounts receivable, they are down this year. That's as a result of your HST being down from the prior year, as your expenditures were lower in 2024. And that was offset too by the grant that you're entitled to receive from the province for the ice storm cleanup, which is hard to believe. It's just a little over a year ago now. So that those are the two main components within your accounts receivable. Your taxes receivable, although went up a little bit dollar-wise, As a percentage of the total levy this year, including penalty and interest, you're at 8.2%. Last year, you were at 8.6%. And every other year prior to that, you were in the 6 and the 7. So those percentages are below the 10% guideline that the province sets for you to be in a low risk range for your taxes receivable. So that takes care of that. That's in a good position there. So in total, you had approximately $17.5 million in financial assets. And then, of course, you have your financial liabilities on the next slide. So these are the amounts that you owe to others or commitments that you have to complete things in the future. Overall, within your accounts payable, in the prior year in 2024, there was a large amount owing on a holdback for the 49 Depot project. That helps explain a lot of the change from year to year as well. You had a larger vehicle in the prior year in payables as well for about 200,000. So that's makes up that difference. Your deferred revenue obligatory reserve fund. So these are monies you have for your Canada Community Building Fund, parkland charges, as well as your development charges. And overall, you did not utilize your Canada Community Building Fund in 2025, so you can carry that number over into 2026, which is almost about $1.5 million. And then the other two amounts, about 100,000 each for parkland and development charges you have that can be utilized moving forward. Your deferred revenue other represents building permits that where you've collected the money, but you still have obligations to complete further work so you can issue the permit. So therefore, in 2024, that was the first year of that requirement under PSAB, and now that number has grown up to almost $284,000. You converted your your construction loan for the work on the 49 Depot this year into a long-term loan, and now you're paying that back. So that's the $2.9 million represents that liability less one payment. Your asset retirement obligation, which used to be called your landfill liability, and that change happened in 2023, and that represents the future cost to close and monitor your landfill sites. And then as well to your employee future benefits, that represents the cost to provide benefits to retirees. And both the asset retirement obligation and the employee future benefits are items that you will be paying out over time, so you don't have to raise those monies each year within your tax budget, only the amounts you think you're going to spend. So in total, you had about $7 million in liabilities. So then on the following slide, when you net those two items, you'll see in 2025, you had a slight increase in your net financial assets. And you can see there that in 2023, prior to converting some of your cash assets into the capital amounts that you did on the 49 Depot project, that's why you see the decrease there. And then when you move to the following slide, when you take a look at your non-financial assets, if you take a look at the top line, your tangible capital assets, the net book value there in 2023 was $30 million. And then in 2024, it jumped up to $39 million. So you converted a liquid asset into a capital asset. So that's still the asset still remains with the municipality. And then for 2025, your additions and your amortizations were fairly close to being equal. So there was a slight decrease there. And as well too, your prepaid expenses, majority of that relates to insurance, and then you still have some inventories of sand and salt at the end of the year, leaving you with about $39.6 million in non-financial assets, so items you won't turn into cash. And then taking a look at the next slide, you'll see there that your tangible capital assets this year, you had almost $2.3 million in additions, and majority of that is work done on your roads and resurfacing, and work done on numerous roads for almost the little over $1.1 million. as well to land improvements. You were doing some work on the 49 Depot site there, completing that, as well as some work in the recreation area. And then as well to buildings. Majority of that is work you're doing on the Buckhorn Fire and Public Works building for about almost 460,000 of that amounts there. And then as well too, you also acquired a chipper that is grouped under vehicles, so that shows you about $2.3 million in your additions. And then the following slide gives you an idea as to the amounts of amortization versus capital additions. And you can see there with the work done on the 49 Depot in 2024, your additions were significantly higher than your amortization. And then in 2025, you did not have as many capital additions, but the amortization of the additions in 2024 happened in 2025. So your amortization was up, and this year being slightly higher than your additions. And then the following slide, you'll see there's your accumulated surplus. So this is what I consider to be the most important slide. Overall, your financial statements show that you have almost $50.3 million in accumulated surplus, but majority of that is all tied up in your invested in capital assets. So these are items like the 49 Depot that you own and operate, and to provide services to the ratepayers. So that's not something you normally turn into cash. So, and as well too, within that invested in capital assets is that net number represents the assets value less the asset retirement obligations and the long-term debt, and about $2.8 million in unfinanced capital that you're maintaining. And then the lower part of the slide being your reserve and your reserve funds. So those are the amounts you have moving forward, so that you can utilize that to complete your capital projects. And your reserve and reserve funds increased by about $960,000 during the year, up to almost $17.5 million, which of course is, when you take a look at the value of your capital assets, the net book value of those are at $39 million. So to replace your assets, as you're finding out, those costs are significantly higher than the actual original cost of those assets. So that's why you're seeing large capital additions. And then on the next page, you'll just see a reconciliation of your surplus presented on a PSAB basis. So the top two lines being the revenues and expenses are done on a PSAB basis, showing that on a PSAB basis you had a $486,000 surplus. But then the amounts on the reconciliation show that when everything is done and adjusted back, that there was no surplus or deficit, with amounts being transferred to reserves and the acquisition of capital and the use of unfinanced capital and payment of long-term debt. So those are the items that bring you back to how you would set your tax rate budget. So that's a summary of those items there. The next slide gives you an idea of your revenues and expenses. And you can see there that in 2025, significantly closer than in some of the other years, and the fact that, of course, you didn't have as many capital grants because you didn't have as many capital costs. So you would expect it to see more being on an equal basis. Then the next slide gives you an idea of your actual total revenues for the year. And you can see there that they were slightly under budget. A couple of those things do represent items that were budgeted that were being moved into 2026, like the use of the Canada Community Building Fund or your gas tax. And as well too, within your grants line, there was a grant there for a Trillium grant that that was budgeted, but that will be spent in 2026, so that that revenue then will be shown in 2026. But the one thing that wasn't budgeted showing up in your grant line is the $503,000 grant you got for the ice storm cleanup. So that explains the variance there. And as well too, with rates being a little lower than anticipated on investment income, that's why that number is lower. And as well too, within your other revenue, you did have about $138,000 in a WSIB rebate, which is more or less a one-time thing. So you had about $16.7 million in total revenue. And then the next slide, you will see where the money went into the various expenses. And your expenses being a little higher here than budgeted. And part of that is due to your amortization budget was based on the 2024 amortization, but with all the additions in 2024, the amortization budget did come in higher, as well as the actual costs for the ice storm cleanup. Majority of that is sitting in your transportation services line, so that's why that number is higher than budgeted, as well as I said, higher amortization. But then within other areas, you were coming in under budget, so you can see there that overall, it although slightly over budget, it's known the main cause of that was the ice storm. And then on the following slide, you will just see the type of expenses. And as usual, salaries and benefits are the largest component of that. As of course, you utilize your municipal staff to deliver the services to your ratepayers. You have a new line this year for your interest charges. And that's on your long-term debt that you took out. And then majority of the ice storm costs are within materials. And then contracted services coming in slightly under budget. And the major component there is your OPP contract coming in at about $1.7 million in that line. And as well too, you have external transfers, payments to the Conservation Authority, and as well too, grants to others. And then you can see there your amortization came in at $2.9 million, whereas the budget was about 2.5. So it's still, in total, things ended up still in a good position, and ideally that can continue into the current year, and you can complete all the projects that you have in line outlined in your budget. So
Thank you very much, Richard Sekinga, and I want to thank our staff for being so cooperative and helpful with dealing with you. I know this is a long drawn out process, and I appreciate that, this year's the first year that I didn't have a couple naps during it. I've been a little more enthusiastic, and I
Okay.
appreciate that. I open up the floor to questions from council. I know Deputy Mayor Armstrong is going to put your hand up. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
I felt obligated to ask at least one question. Although I had a number and you've answered them all that I had, so thank you, Richard. The one question I did have was around the investment income. I know you said it was all rate driven. Was it also principal driven? Because it was a drop of about $150,000 compared to our budget. It was on slide 14.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Give Richard a chance to get back to slide 14.
I think it's your cash balances at the end of each year were fairly consistent, so we haven't noted that it was related to the reduction in the rates over the year.
Okay. Any other follow-up questions, Deputy Mayor Armstrong?
No, just one comment, which is to really congratulate our staff, and particularly our treasurer, in doing a really good, careful job in the budgeting process. Everything came in very close to our budget. That takes a lot of work and discipline, so appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that comment. We do value our staff greatly. I think it's difficult to stay on budget, and I know we very much try to. Any other comments or questions? I'm seeing none. Would anyone be prepared to make a motion? Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a mover, and Councillor Franzen for a seconder. And what might your motion be, Deputy Mayor Armstrong?
I believe at this point, it is to approve the audited financial statements as presented.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Thank you very much, Richard, for your presentation. Okay, now we can move on to item 9, which is delegations. We have none. Item 10 is staff reports. Item 10.1 is public works. We have none. 10.2 is recreation and facilities. We have none. 10.3 is fire and emergency services. We have none. And 10.4 is building and planning. And 10.4.1. Now, Adele Arbor, our planner, would you like to speak to this item, please?
Yes, thank you. And through you, Mayor Lambshead, this report is in reference to the interim report regarding public comments and concerns received regarding the official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for a proposed 58 lot plan of subdivision on County Road 49. A public meeting was held on September 16th, 2025, and a number of comments and concerns were received by the public. The interim report identifies in detail planscapes and Cambium's responses to the issues raised, and correspondence is appended to the report as appendices C, D, and E. Upon receipt of planscape's supplementary responses to public comments on February 4th, 2026, municipal staff sought further clarification regarding the nitrite assessment and test well 3 pumping test. A meeting was held on February 18th, 2026 with municipal staff, the proponent's planning consultant, their technical team, and the municipality's peer reviewer. On March 11th, 2026, the municipality received Cambium's supplemental reporting, and municipal staff are now satisfied that there are no outstanding hydrogeological issues. Staff have understood the September 16, 2025 council resolution that a further public meeting was envisioned by council in order to provide the public with answers to their concerns, and further that the public meeting circulation would be broadened to include property owners on Elwood Crescent. The public meeting notice will include a link to this interim report and attachments so the public may view the responses well in advance of the public meeting. The technical team for the proponent will also be in attendance to respond and provide clarification to any additional questions. Therefore, staff are recommending that council receive the interim report from the planner regarding responses to public meeting comments September 16, 2025, and further the council directs staff to schedule a second public meeting on May 5th, 2026 to present the responses to public meeting comments received, and further that the public meeting notice be circulated to the broader circulation distance to Elwood Crescent as required by council resolution of September 16, 2025. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Adele Arbor. Does anyone on council have any comments or questions? I'm seeing no hands. I do appreciate that the hydrogeological study issues have been, because that was a lot of the conversation was around hydrogeological. So that's nice that we're getting through that. So thank you very much, Adele.
I have one question.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Gadd.
Through your mayor, there was a reference about study done in 2023. Residents were, I think it was Laura Rice. 2.5 years ago, April 3rd, we were informed.
Not sure you're on the right.
No,
What's that to deal with? Is that what?
that's with quarry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we're on a different item.
My apologies.
That's okay. No, there's a lot, there's 104 pages of stuff to look through here. So
Yeah.
it's not a short report, so it's easy to get confused a bit. So is there any other comments or questions? I see Councillor Braber. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through your mayor, just make a recommendation to receive the report and support staff's recommendations.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? I see Councillor Franzen for a seconder. Any further conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, thank you very much, Adele. We can move on now to item 10.4.2 of the agenda, which is Adele Arbor, our planner. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Thank you. And through you, Mayor Lambshead, this report is in reference to the new comprehensive zoning bylaw project and request to appoint 1 or 2 members of council to take part in the advisory working group. This project was awarded to JP2G Consultants Inc. and will take approximately 1 year to complete. The composition of the working group will include the planning technician, director of building and planning, CBO, external planning consultant, and myself. We are looking for 1 or 2 counselors to be part of the advisory working group. The intent of the working group is to guide the process of developing a new comprehensive zoning bylaw, including an effective communications and engagement plan, as well as discussing and reviewing matters such as key issues, trends, and analyses. Staff are recommending that council receive the report from the planner regarding the new comprehensive zoning bylaw project, and further that council supports the establishment and composition of a zoning bylaw advisory working group as outlined in this report, and further that council appoint either 1 or 2 members of council to be part of the advisory working group. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much, Adele Arbor. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Adele? I'm seeing Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much, Mayor Lansing. Thanks, Adele. It's a concern, and I'm not sure that I have a good solution for it. The concern is that if this is going to take a year, we are going to be into 2027 with a new council, which may or may not include some of the present councilors. So I guess the first question is there any way to make this a 6-month project so it could be completed before this term of council is over? That's the first question.
Okay, go ahead, Adele.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in our terms of reference, we identified that there would be a council election happening this year. And it was actually built into the proposal that was submitted that there will be a changeover, but they would appraise any new council of any findings and bring them up to speed. So there wouldn't be a disconnect between the old and new council should there be new councillor members. And I think at that point, when we get to the near end of the year, we're going to be in a position that will have a very draft comprehensive zoning bylaw at that time.
Deputy Mayor Armstrong, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Follow up. I'm not suggesting this, but I want to at least table it. Would we be better to wait to do this project until after the election and we have a new council seated? I know there are a lot of, I think we've taken care of the really urgent matters in updating the comprehensive zone bylaw as we've gone along. And none of us really wants to wait longer than we have to. But I just wonder what everybody feels about the potential for waiting until the new council is seated, pros and cons.
Thank you very much. Do you want to respond to that, please, Adele?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't personally see it as a concern for the municipality with the election happening this year. I don't think that there will be a disconnect. However, I'm open to any suggestions that council may have regarding that and any concerns.
Okay, any other councilors have any comments or questions? Councillor Franzen, go ahead, please.
Yeah. I think it probably should be 2 members of council with the importance of this committee. I also believe that we should do it immediately because there's a lot of things that we can pass on to the incoming council and get the ball rolling.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing no hands, I concur. I think moving forward now gets it started. I think the transition to a different council, hopefully some of the members of the existing council are on the new council, so maybe the transition might be a little smoother. And I think moving forward now, it just gets us started because we've been waiting some time to get this going, and I think it's prudent that we move ahead. I mean, we have some value in the budget this year, so I would like to move ahead with it. Any Councillor Braber, go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I'll just put my name in the hat to be considered for this working group, subject to other council members.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Braber. I also would put my name in the hat. I would like to be part of this group. I value the entire municipality, and we have a good zoning bylaw, and I think we just need some tweaks to make it the best zoning bylaw we have in Peterborough County. And I think I would love to be part of it. It's up to council to decide who we want on there, but so I think we can, is anyone else would like to be on that committee? I'm seeing none. Is anyone prepared to make that a motion? Councillor Franlin, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that Mayor and the ward councillor for Harvey Township or for Harvey Ward be put on this committee. John Braybrook and Terry Lamshead.
And the rest of that recommendation, is that part of your?
Yeah,
Okay, so as recommended by staff?
as recommended by staff.
With those two people on, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? I see Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any further conversation? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, we can now move on to item 10.4.3 of our agenda. And Adele Arbor, our planner, would you like to speak to this item, please?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Lambshead. This report is in reference to an application to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to increase the operating hours for two Bass Lane quarries, license numbers 625888 and 624632, and a phasing amendment to license site 624632. The request was submitted by Skeleton Brummel and Associates, Inc. on behalf of owner Jeff Cheshire, Buckhorn Sand and Gravel, originally in 2023 and again in March 2026. The 2023 planning report was not advanced to council at the request of Skeleton Brumwell at that time. Similar requests to extend operating hours prior to 2023, specifically in 2017 and 2020, were denied. It's important to note that the license approval authority for quarry operations is the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, and the Municipality of Trent Lakes is a commenting agency, and ultimately the decision lies with the ministry. Planning staff initiated another detailed review of the 2026 request to extend operating hours to 5:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Friday, and Saturdays from 5:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Planning staff also reached out to the ministry, and as the proposed amendment to the operating hours is the same as requested in 2023, we were advised by the ministry no further notice or circulation is required. Municipal planning staff have attached to this report a map identifying all quarries in the vicinity of Bass Lane Road, which is found under Appendix F, and Skeleton Brumwell had provided a chart of existing quarries in Trent Lakes with operating hours, which is attached as Appendix B to the report. All complaints received at the municipal level in reference to any quarries in the municipality are directed to MNRF, as each quarry operation is under its own specific license. There are many similarities between aggregate licensed areas. However, one cannot say the sites are equal. Each site plan application must be assessed on its own merits, as well as each amendment request. Upon further review of the municipality's noise bylaw, it appeared that the quarry operations are exempt and would be governed by their requisite licenses. There is an exception in the noise bylaw, which includes agricultural, commercial, institutional, or industrial activities recognized as a normal practice. Normal practice is defined in the bylaw as noise which is associated with performing a task which is typical or common practice. MNRF is the approval authority and will be assessing any impacts and comments received. The municipality has received 6 submissions from the public in response to this planning report posted on the council agenda. All comments received are opposed to the extension of operating hours for these two Bass Lane quarries. Council has received public comments on your desk for information, and I have emailed to the 2 councillors that are remotely tuning in and participating in this council meeting. As a result of staff's current analysis, it's being recommended that council receive the report from the planner regarding the requested changes to the operating hours for Bass Lane Quarries, license number 624632 and license number 6258888. And further, that council direct staff to advise the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry that council is not opposed to the amended hours of operation requested for these two quarries. And further, that council direct staff to advise the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry that they have no concerns with the sequential shift in phasing of extraction being requested. And further, that council direct staff, should the extended hours of operation be approved by the ministry, that an updated quarry license and road maintenance agreement to reflect the revised hours be forwarded to council for approval. And I would like to add an additional recommendation considering the correspondence that we have received from the public. And the last recommendation would be that council direct staff to forward all public comments received to the ministry for their consideration.
Thank you, Adele Arbor. I appreciate your thorough explanation there that this is more of a Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry license, so it's difficult for Trent Lakes to have much control over it. But anyone on council have any comments or questions? Councillor Cadigan, go ahead, please.
I guess this would be the question that I had before. The skeleton Brumwell report from 2023 got public input, and we didn't see that in any of our reports. Do we have that available or anywhere?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in 2023, again, the municipality was circulated by the ministry as a commenting agency, and Skeleton Brumwell at that time was doing their due diligence. There is a process for amendment to licenses. So they were to notify property owners, I believe it's within 120 meters. And also on the ministry registry site, there was a public notice for 30 days identifying as the amendments being requested to the operating hours. So when I reached out to the ministry, when we received this request, the same request in 2026, the ministry advised that there is no further circulation. Nothing was being changed from their original request in 2023, and the public was notified and provided comments, I would assume, because that isn't shared with the municipality as being a commenting agency.
Thank you.
And yeah, Deputy Mayor Armstrong, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Lamson. I have 4 issues with this recommendation and the report. First of all, I realize and have read that it is not a requirement to provide notice to residents nearby. I think that should have been done because we're back at it again. Residents have changed, there's been turnover, may have a change of opinion, etc. So I don't think the comments necessarily from 3 years ago are still valid. Number 2, that was your point, Councillor Cadigan. Where are the comments from 2023? Because we didn't see those. Number 3, in my opinion, nothing has changed since the request in 2023. So I don't know why we would change our recommendation from then to now. Number 4, read through Appendix F, and there certainly is not sufficient data to support a rationale that this quarry is not being able to operate competitively with other quarries, which was one of the reasons that they wanted this change to their operating hours. So for all those reasons, I am not in support of approving this application.
Okay.
Approving, commenting, whatever the proper terminology is.
Thank you.
There you go.
Appreciate the comments, because we do have to send all these comments to the MNRF, and they're the ones that investigate and make sure that they're answered and sufficiently answered to our ratepayers. Hey, any other comments or questions? I would just like to speak to that one thing that you mentioned, that there is a reason that a little bit earlier in the morning hours is making that quarry more competitive, because trucks can't make 3 loads a day of gravel from anywhere in Trent Lakes right now to the greater Toronto area. And to start early, just loading trucks makes it so they can make 3 trips a day, because trucks won't come to our quarries to haul stuff to the Greater Toronto area, which is where millions of cubic meters of gravel are heading. Fortunately or unfortunately, it doesn't, it's just, that's just a fact that they can't make the third trip in a day, and the third trip's the one that makes them money. So they just won't haul out of our quarries to do them larger projects. And the only reason I feel like supporting this is something that's a little near to my heart is we see massive amounts of rubble piles throughout this municipality. They cover hundreds of acres like that should be land for salamanders and frogs and turtles to walk on, but it's not. It's a great big mound of rubble that never gets dealt with. It just continues to get larger. I just took a picture of a couple on my way in this morning, and it's horrific how large these piles are. And this, starting a little earlier in the morning, then they already have a license for 7, it will enable them to remove one of them or 2 of them in humongous piles of rubble that cover acres and acres and acres of property that would otherwise have animals on it and trees on it and grass growing on it, and probably some alder might come back. And it's just, this is, for me, it's more of a try to eliminate some of these massive amounts of rubble that are sitting around our municipality, absolutely doing nothing and devastating acres and acres of property. So that's, I mean, this quarry sits lower than quarries around it, so the sound attenuation is a little bit easier for them because the elevation around that quarry is considerably higher, so the sound in the quarry doesn't escape the quarry as well as if it was on the top of the hill. Bass Lake's going to get all the sound, but this quarry's, I forget how many meters, it's several meters lower than the surrounding landscape, so it does have its own noise mitigation naturally. So just these are just comments and points that have been made aware of, and that's the only reason I think that this might be something that we should support to help remove some of these massive amounts of rubble that are sitting around our municipality. Like if you said it, I don't want to point at anyone in particular, but you can drive around and see them. I drive around this entire municipality on a monthly basis, and they're everywhere. And it's just, it's absolutely devastating to our area that could be natural and beautiful. Instead, it's a big pile of rubble. So just my comments. So Councillor Braber, go ahead.
Thank you through you, Mayor, and thank you for the comments and other council members. I have 6 questions, but 5 of them have been asked already and answered. Actually 7, but I just wanted to ask a question as far as how the proponent is being disadvantaged, and how our other quarries, I think we have over 30 other quarries operating their start at 5:30 a.m. I didn't see any of that in the information. So I'm just wondering how they're being disadvantaged. Because when I went through that chart, and there was a lot of information that wasn't there that I was hoping for. And one of them is I didn't see any of the other quarries opening up at 5:30. So if that is the case, claiming to be disadvantaged, and if it was approved, they would now be advantaged. And you could potentially have 30 other quarries coming with the same argument saying that now we are disadvantaged because, you know, we want to make some money as well. And my last comment is the residents' concern. And my issue is being a commenting entity. There's a lot of information that I don't know from the MNRF, save and except what was on this report. And what troubles me is that the MNRF took the position that 3 years ago, the situation should remain the same, that being the feedback from residents. I'm of the opinion if 3 years or even a year, the residents should be, you know, reconsulted, because I mean it impacts them directly. And so that's my concern as well, and I share it. And plus, I mean, I'm for business, I'm for industry and that sort of thing, but our municipality is half and half. We have half residents that come up for the, you know, the summertime, and what was mentioned in one of the feedback from the residents was that our seasonal residents don't come up till the end of May, and I just want to know how they were notified and consulted and that sort of thing. So again, I'm for the business. I just want to know if they can answer that question about how the proponents being disadvantaged, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Adele.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just have one comment regarding Appendix A, I believe it Appendix B has the table of operating hours. Where it says it's silent means there is no restriction on operating hours. Some of these quarries were established and had a license prior to, I believe it was 2007. So there is no, I guess, limiting operating hours. So when you mentioned that you saw on the chart that there weren't any quarries that operated earlier than 7 a.m., the ones that are silent show that they have the ability to operate prior to 7 a.m. There is no restriction on their hours.
Just a follow up, if I may.
Let's go ahead.
Thank you, through Merit. Is that, Adele, is that a definition as per the MNRF? If something is silent, it could mean these 5 things, or I'm just not sure the definition of silent. You know, could it be they're being silent because they just have no input? And I'm not sure of that.
Go ahead, Adele.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in speaking with the consultants from Skelton Brumwell, this was the way they developed the chart. If there were no restrictions to the hours, it's silent. There is no, and they could have used a better word, I guess, to help explain it more, but that's my understanding, that there is no restriction on operating hours if it says silent.
Go ahead, Councilor Braybrook. One more try.
Thank you. Last follow up. So my perspective on that, if it's silent, it should default to our noise bylaw. You know, realizing it's a provincial item, but we still have, and I appreciate the exemption that was mentioned to certain commercial operations. So just wanted to make that known.
Go ahead, Adele. I think give you some more
Through you,
information.
Mr. Mayor, one last comment. So if we are to default to our noise bylaw, as I indicated in my presentation, there is an exception in the noise bylaw that includes agricultural, commercial, institutional, or industrial activities recognized as a normal practice. And I identified that the definition of normal practice is defined as noise which is associated with performing a task which is typical or common practice. And I would consider typical and common practice anything that's permitted by a license that is issued by the ministry.
Thank you.
And those silent hours, oh, sorry, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Armstrong.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Lamson. I'm not convinced that the silent means that they have no restricted hours. The comment is that M&R staff indicated that any licensed quarries predating 2007 did not include specified operating hours. So even if they don't have specified operating hours, they do have operating hours as a business. And, you know, they're not operating 24 hours a day. So it would be helpful to know what their actual operating hours are, even if they weren't specified. So I'm just not buying that there's a competitive disadvantage, much as you, Councillor Braybrook. I'm not buying that there's necessarily competitive disadvantages currently to the Bass Lake Quarry. I just don't think we have enough information to either conclude that or to support that rationale.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Any other comments or questions? Just my same comment is that when they are silent, they can operate anytime they want. There is no restrictions. They don't have a 7 to 7. They don't have a 9 to 7. They can start at 5:30 one day and then not the next. So there is no hours of operation. So they have the right as a business to operate anytime they want, because most of those quarries are in remote or more remote areas, which this is kind of in a remote area. Okay, that's all my comments. Any more comments? I'm seeing none. Is anyone ready to make a motion of some form? I'm seeing no hands. I would step out of the chair and make a motion if Deputy Mayor Armstrong would take over the chair for 1 minute.
I can do that.
Okay, thank you very much. I would make a motion that we receive the report from the planner regarding the request to changes to the hours of operation of the Bass Lake Quarry license, and further that council direct staff to advise the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry that council is not opposed. Doesn't mean we recommend it, but we're not opposed to the amended hours of operation requested for these two quarries, and further that council direct staff to advise the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry that they have no concerns with the sequential shift in phasing of extraction being requested, and further that council direct staff, should a extended hours be approved by the ministry, that an updated quarry license and road maintenance agreement to reflect the revised hours be forwarded to council for approval. And I think we had one more comment that we want to send every question that our ratepayers have given us to the Minister of Natural Resources to get an answer. So that is my motion.
Thank you very much, Mayor Lamshead. Is there a second for that motion?
Councillor,
Councillor Franzen, is that a second?
Yes.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? And if not, seeing none, may I call for the vote? Actually, I would like a recorded vote. So I think that takes it over to you, to our clerk.
yes, it does.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Armstrong, are you in favor?
I am not.
Councillor Braybrook,
No.
Councillor Cadigan,
No.
Councillor Franzen,
Yes.
Mayor Lamshead.
Yes.
That motion has failed.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second motion that somebody would like to propose?
I think that comes back to me now because my motion has failed.
Oh, yes.
I will.
I'll turn it back over to you, Mayor
Turn
Lamshead.
to the chair. Thank you very much, Deputy Armstrong, Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Okay, does anyone else have as a subsequent motion for that item? Seeing Councillor Braber, go ahead.
Yeah. Am I able to ask a question or make a comment at this point, or are we?
Well, we're looking for a motion, but we should have a motion, then you're going to have a question, I guess.
Okay.
As long as you get it seconded. So are you prepared to make a motion?
I would be, but it would be lengthy. Because as I mentioned, I'm not in favor of the motion as presented. There's a lot of things in that previous report that could be amended. For instance, the 24/7.
Well, if you have a motion and you'd like to present it, it doesn't matter if it's lengthy or not. It's your opportunity to make a motion, and if you don't want to, we'll give it to someone else.
Yeah, no, I'll pass on it. Thank you.
Okay, I see Deputy Mayor Armstrong. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Lamshead. So I will make the motion. I'm only going to change 2 words. So the motion would be that council receive the report from the planner regarding the requested changes to the operating hours for Bass Lake quarries. And further, that council direct staff to advise the ministry that council is opposed to the amended hours of operation requested for these 2 quarries. And further, that council direct staff to advise the ministry that we do have concerns with the sequential shift in phasing of extraction being requested. And further, that council strike out that last sentence and add in the final one that you had recommended, Adele, which is that all comments received should be forwarded to the MNR along with our recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you have that. Yep, okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion? I'm seeing Councillor Braber for a seconder. Okay, any further conversation? I'm seeing none. I can call for a vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Adele, for your details. We can move on now to item 10.5 of our agenda, which is finance, and 10.5.1 is Donna Taggart, our CAO treasurer. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Yes, thank you, and through you. So before you was a report regarding Scotia Trust's resignation as trustee for the Sandy Lake Cemetery. So after the resignation of the board, December 15th, 2015, the municipality became the operator of the Sandy Lake Cemetery, January 1, 2016. So there is a requirement under the Funeral, Burial, and Cremation Act that cemeteries have a care and maintenance fund, trust fund, to ensure the long-term upkeep of the cemetery. And since the municipality took over operations of the cemetery, Scotia Trust has acted as the trustee of these funds. And there is currently a balance, or there was at the end of 2025, of just over $78,000 in that trust. So funds are transferred to the trust annually through the sale of plots, niches, and markers. And in 2025, just to let you know, there were 8 markers sold, a couple of different sizes, 7 plots, and that resulted in $3,780 being transferred to the trust fund. So the municipality recently received notification from Scotia Wealth Management, or Scotia Trust, that they are resigning as the trustee for the cemetery effective April 16th, 2026. It is staff's recommendation that the trust funds being held at Scotia Trust be transferred to the Royal Bank, RBC, and that these funds be held in an essential savings account with annual interest remitted to the municipality that will once again assist with the cost to operate the cemetery. Just to let you know, in 2025, interest income on the trust funds was just over $2,300. So the request today is that council receive the report, that council authorizes staff to transfer the funds from the Scotia Trust account to the RBC Royal Bank, and that council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the letter of direction appointing RBC signing authorities attached as Appendix A, and that council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the Scotia Wealth Management release, acknowledgement, and indemnity attached as Appendix B. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Donna Taggart, CAO Treasurer. Does anyone have any comments or questions for Donna? I'm seeing none. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? See, Councillor Cadigan, go ahead, please.
I'll make a motion that council receive the report from the CEO treasurer and that council authorize staff to transfer the funds. Council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the letter of direction, and council authorize mayor and clerk to sign Scotia Wealth Management release.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Cadigan. Anyone have a seconder for that motion? I'm seeing Councillor Franzen for a seconder. Any further conversation about the motion? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, we can move on to item 10.6 of the agenda, which is administration. And 10.6.1, Donna Taggart, our CAO treasurer. Would you like to speak to this item, please?
Yes, thank you, and through you. Before you is a report regarding an agreement with the Buckhorn Lake Estates Community Association for the use of Block E, as this 10-year agreement authorizing the use expires December 31st, 2026. So as a condition of approval of the Buckhorn Lake Estate subdivision, Block E of Plan M7 was set aside for the common use of the owners in the subdivision. The association has been in contact with staff expressing an interest to renew the agreement, and there is an amending agreement on the agenda attached as Appendix A. The only change recommended is that the new agreement contain a provision to terminate by either party with 90 days written notice, and this new agreement expires December 31st, 2036. So therefore, staff are looking for council to receive the report and further to authorize the CAO treasurer to sign the amending agreement as attached. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Donna Taggart. Anyone have any comments or questions for Donna? I'm seeing none. Is anyone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Braber, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Make a motion that council receive the report and support staff's recommendation.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Seeing Councillor Franzen for a seconder. Any further conversation about the motion or item? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, we can move on now to item 10.7 of our agenda, which is corporate services. And 10.7.1, Jesse Clark, our Director of Corporate Services Clerk, would you like to speak to this item, please?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamshead, council has approved the stop-up closure and sale of a portion of the Shore Road allowance for the Kootenai Coolers for a parking area to access their island property. Staff have received an appraisal of the land of $2,000. Staff are recommending that council approve the purchase price for the sale of the shoreline road allowance of the appraised value. And there's a bylaw on today's agenda to stop up, close, and transfer it for council's consideration.
Okay, thank you very much, Jesse Clark. Anyone have any comments or questions? Seeing, okay, Councillor Cadigan, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, the only comment I would have is that $2,000 for 33 feet of waterfront seems awfully cheap and expensive, I guess. That's my only comment.
I'd like to buy 1,000 of them, put them all together.
Yeah.
That is, it's appraised, so it's the appraised value, so we have to go with what's appraised. Thank you for the question, though. Okay, is anyone else, any comments or questions, or is prepared to make a motion? Councillor Franzen, go ahead.
Council received the report from the Director of Corporate Services. And that council authorizes the transfer of a portion of the shoreline road allowance being part 1 on Plan 45-18003, and further that council approved the purchase price of $2,000 plus GST
Okay, thank you, Councillor
or
Franzen.
HST.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? I'm seeing Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Any further questions or comments, or would you like to speak to the motion? I'm seeing none. I will call for a vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay. We can move now on to item 10.7.2, which is Jesse Clark, our Director of Corporate Services and Clerk. Would you like to speak to this item, Jesse?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamshead, at the September 16th, 2025 meeting, council approved the stop-up closure and sale of a portion of an unopened road allowance, which will serve as a lot addition to the property known municipally as 11 Peninsula Court. Staff have received an appraised value of the land at $15,000. Staff are recommending council approve the purchase price for the sale of the unopened road allowance of the appraised value.
Okay, thank you very much, Jesse Clark. Anyone have any comments or questions for Jesse regarding this item? Seeing none, is anyone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Braber, go ahead.
I can make a motion to receive the report and support staff's recommendation.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? I'm seeing Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. Any further conversation regarding the motion or item? I am seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, we can move on to item 11 of our agenda, which is notice of motion. Anyone? Oh, sorry, my apologies. I think we have item 10.7.3. Our Jesse Clark, our Director of Corporate Services Clerk, would you like to speak to this item, please?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lamshead, Kevin Duguay, on behalf of owner Susan Torrey, is requesting to purchase a portion of a road allowance on registered plan 2, which splits the Torrey property. The current lot is comprised of 2 detached parts, and the purchase of the road and shore road allowance were recommended through the pre-consultation process in order to accommodate a proposed reconfiguration and redevelopment of the lot. The sale of this road allowance would be in accordance with the policy. And while the land was dedicated as a road allowance on registered plan 2, the traveled portion of Mississauga Lake Road does not use this road allowance, and the applicant has confirmed that the Torreys are the only property owners utilizing / having use of the concerned section of the road allowance. The request was circulated to all departments who were supportive of selling the road allowance. Staff recommend that council support the application and to proceed with the application process and advise the applicant, the owners will be responsible for all costs.
Okay, thank you very much, Jesse Clark. Anyone have any comments or questions for Jesse regarding this item? Seeing none, is anyone prepared to make a motion? See, Councillor Cadigan, go ahead.
I'll make a motion that council receive the report and that council follow the recommendations of staff.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cadigan. Do I have a seconder for that motion? I'm seeing Councillor Franzen for a seconder. Any further conversation? I'm seeing none. I just think that this is a nice way to kind of take a whole bunch of pieces and put them together. Looks like we had a jigsaw puzzle in there. Just kind of solves that. Okay, those are my comments, and I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Thank you very much. Now I can move on to item 11 of our agenda, which is notice of motion. Does anyone have a notice of motion? Seeing no hands, so we can move on to item 12 of our agenda, which is correspondence for information. If anyone would like to speak to any of the items, we can take them one at a time or do them all at once. It's entirely up to council. Councilor Franzen, go ahead.
Motion to receive all 4 items.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councilor Cadigan for a seconder. Any further conversation about those items? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Now we can move on to item 13 of our agenda, which is correspondence for action. Would anyone like to speak about any one of those items? Seeing none, would anyone be prepared to make a motion? Councilor Cadigan, go ahead.
The motion to receive all.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Being Councilor Franzen for a seconder. Any further conversation regarding the motion or the items?
I have a comment on 13.2.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think this train project is it's a national infrastructure project that would unite our country and bring our country into a more modern era and be more competitive with the United States. I think past examples of this kind of project that united the country was the St. Lawrence Seaway project and the Trans-Canada Railroad.
Okay, thank you very much for those comments, Councilor Franzen. Any other comments? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay. We can move on to item 14 of our agenda, which is bylaws, and 14.1 is goes up, and I think we don't have an amendment, so we can speak to that item. Anyone prepared to make a motion regarding that item? Let's see. Deputy Mayor Armstrong, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Lamson. I will make the motion that we approve bylaw 2026-029.
Thank you very much. We can move, do we have a seconder for that motion? I see Councilor Brayberg for a seconder. Any further conversation regarding the item? I'm seeing none. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. Okay, we can move on to item 15 of our agenda, which is announcement. Does anyone have an announcement to make? I see Councilor Brayberg, go ahead.
Yeah,
Please.
the Buckhorn ratepayers meeting, which is April 28th at 7 p.m. Just wanted to announce that that meeting's taking place, and we're going to have Evan Grieger, our Director of Roads, is going to speak to the group regarding our winter's snow removal efforts.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that announcement, and thank you very much, Evan, for speaking up for Trent Lakes. Okay, any other announcements? I'm seeing none. We can move on now to item 16 of our agenda, which is our closed meeting. I would entertain a motion to go into closed. See Councilor Brayberg for mover and Councilor Cadigan for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? Oh, I got to tell you why we're going into closed before I call that. Oops. Item 16.1 is we are going into closed under the authority of the Ontario Municipal Act, Section 239(2), to discuss P, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, which is municipal employees, and E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board litigation. These are the reasons we are going into closed, and I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We are now in closed. Okay, we can move on to item 16.2 of our agenda, which is rise from closed. I would entertain a motion to rise from our closed meeting and go back into our regular council meeting. See Councilor Franzen for a mover, Councilor Cadigan for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion is carried. We have risen from closed. Now we can move on to item 17 of our agenda, which is business arising from our closed meeting. Item 17.1 is the adoption of the minutes of our March 3rd special meeting and March 11th meeting. Would anyone be prepared to make that motion? See Councilor Cadigan for a mover and Deputy Mayor Armstrong for a seconder. Sorry, I missed that. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on to item 18 of our agenda, which is the adoption of the confirming bylaw. Item 18.1 is the confirming bylaw 2026-030. Anyone prepared to make that motion? I see Councillor Cadigan and Councillor Franzen for the seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We can move on now to item 19 of our agenda, which is adjournment. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn? Councillor Braybrook and Councillor Cadigan for a seconder. I will call for the vote. All in favor? That motion has carried. We are adjourned. Thank you very much for attending remotely. Deputy Mayor Armstrong and Councillor Braybrook.